What's good, everybody? Tabletop Tyrant here, starting off the week right with a lore and unit breakdown of Prince Apophas. For those of you that are unfamiliar, on Mondays I cover a random special unit and or character from Warhammer the Old World. We talk about what it did on the tabletop and if it has rules for the tabletop, and we talk about its lore. Today was Prince Apophas. Any recommendations or suggestions you, the viewer, have, put in the comments below, and I will try to get around to all of the ones I can. So without further ado, Prince Apophas. This character was always interesting to me, just because of his look alone. As you can see, we have a skull with some finery and a lot of beetles. The only question one might ask is how a prince met such a ghastly fate. Well, as is the case with most would-be rulers, Apophas was a very jealous prince, whose ambitions overwhelmed his status. You see, Prince Apophas coveted the throne to Numas, a once great city in the lands of Nehekara. And Prince Apophas would come to the only conclusion one can with a heart full of jealousy, and that was to murder the entire royal family and take their place as king of Numas. So Prince Apophas would carry out his treason, slitting the throats of the entire royal family with a dagger as they slept. This would-be king would take his seat at the throne, soon discover the people were not very pleased with him. The people of Numas would drag the usurper from the throne and took him to one of their many temples to be judged. One of the worst crimes you could commit as a citizen of Nehekara was regicide. Killing of the royalty. And it wasn't uncommon for those who tried for the throne to be denied the privilege of mummification. So what does this mean to not be mummified? Well, it left you two options. One, you were sent to the depths of the underground and tortured for all oblivion. Yikes. And two, you faced oblivion alone with only yourself as company till the end of time. However, meeting that oblivion would be what the people argued about. The one death that was agreed upon by the people of Numas was to throw Prince Apophas into a sarcophagus and seal him in with flesh-eating beetles. We have seen this before. It is rumored that the prince's death screams were heard plainly and clearly throughout the hall, as if he wasn't even sealed in the sarcophagus. The people, intrigued as well as disturbed by this, opened the tomb and saw no beetles, no fleshy bits, and only a skull. Resealing the sarcophagus, they inscribed it with heavy curses. The people buried the sarcophagus in the desert to never be disturbed. So, when Prince Apophas died, his soul was snatched up immediately by Usurian, god of the underworld, to be perpetually tormented for his crimes. However, being of noble birth, the god would strike a deal with Apophas. If he could find an identical soul to his own as a stand-in, the god will release his soul. And with the whoosh of nonsense, the prince rematerialized as the cursed scarab lord. His appearance is that of a skull, beetles that fly and buzz around in a parody of a human form. In his hand is the same blade he used to slay the royal family, no longer bringing him power but salvation from an eternity of torment. So, that's just a little overview. Now we're going to go to the laid-back section where I talk about like a little battle and his stat line. So he makes a little debut in the Tomb King's army book. He is with Cetra following along because Cetra got his butt whooped by some chaos dudes, took a flaming axe to the chest, and some of them made off with some of his belongings. 7 artifacts, as a matter of fact, and they hunted and killed all of them down but one. Kaggle Bloodfist, I believe was his name. And he had Cetra's crown just sitting on his head. I would not want to be him, but I digress. So Prince Apophas, he kind of saw this dude and he was like, yeah, he's pretty tough. I think he's got what it takes. He could take my place and end up, being tortured for the rest of his life. So he goes up, kills his bodyguards. Kaggle's sitting there swinging his axe, getting all sorts of angry. And right before Kaggle can deliver that axe to the head, Prince Apophas devours him with beetles and slashes his throat open. And, Kaggle Bloodfist dies, and instead Apophas ripped his screaming soul and sent it right to Usurian to be judged. So, pretty interesting bit right there. So now let's check out his stat line. You're looking at movement 4, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 3, strength 4, toughness 3, 4 wounds, initiative 1, 5 attacks, leadership 8, 130 points, and a hero choice. So that is not really bad at all compared to the special rules you get, in my opinion. There are, however, a couple red flags that I would like to state, and I will do that at the end. So, the special rules, Entomb Beneath the Sands, is pretty much the ambusher special rule. Acts as deep strike, roll scatter, and artillery die. You can't show up through impassable terrain. If you roll direct hit, you show up where you want. If you scatter with the arrow, move at the arrow in inches number that it tells you to. So if it says go right 5 inches, move him right 5 inches. I don't believe he can pop up through a unit, so he might count as destroyed. And on a misfire, you have to consult a chart. Now this is where it gets rough. On a 1 to 2, the unit's destroyed. 3 to 4, you have to retry next turn, and a 5 to 6, the unit shows up on a random board edge. So there's a big chance that you could have this guy positioned perfectly and just show up on a random board edge and screw yourself, or worse, he's counted as dead. He also had the fly, so he moves 12 inches. He's a pretty quick guy, quick moving. However, he is not allowed to join other units because he has the Desert Revenant special rule, which kind of leaves him out in the open and subject to spells, artillery, pretty much anything. He's packing a 6-up regen, and he has Strider, so modifiers for moving through terrain doesn't matter. Now, here's where I think he stands pretty strong. He causes terror, so if you don't cause fear, and you're charging a unit that doesn't cause fear or terror itself, they have to take a leadership when being charged, and if they fail, they run. So if you're close enough with that fly, there's a potential you could chase him down. Interesting little fun tidbit here, he has actually a breath weapon. So he has the Scarab Prince, which grants him a strength 2 breath weapon. Nothing like to scoff at, but also like nothing crazy either. It's a little hat in the bag. But where it gets dope is if he's destroyed, all models within 2d6 receive a 2d6 strength 2 hit. Treat it as shooting attack. So, not bad. And then finally, he has the Soul Reaper. This is what makes him pretty nasty to other heroes or lords. So, once Prince Apophas appears on the battlefield, select an enemy character. That model is now marked by the god of the underworld, Usurian, and you get to reroll failed to hit and wound rolls against this character. So with those 5 attacks, and weapon skill 4 is kind of nothing to joke about. It's pretty decent. You'll be hitting most people on 4s, and then strength 4. You know, Empire General's toughness 3, so you're going to be wounding him on a 3. And I think that's pretty freaking awesome. Rerolling your failed to hit and wound rolls is pretty tough. And then on top of it, with that being a strength 4, you're -1 to your armor save with that modification. So it has its points. Now, 130 points is pretty beefy, so a little bit in terms of Tomb Kings, but everything in that army book, in my opinion, is a little more expensive than it should be, and I think that's because it was one of the first books released. Now, that's up for debate. We'll talk about that more on Tuesday when we do their army introduction breakdown. I hope all of you enjoy this. If you have any suggestion for characters you want to see, please leave it down below, and I would like to get around to whatever you guys want to talk about on Monday. With that being said, I have to say thank you for your time. Thank you for checking out this video, and I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow for the Tomb Kings Army Breakdown. Peace.